I'm learning that because just recently I sold a single family, and it just hurt. I put all that sweat and tears in it. I gave it away, and when I say I made some money, but what is money, right? Especially that today, the dollar, it doesn't mean the same dollar 10, 20 years ago. My mother bought her home, her 3-family home in Dorchester for $35,000, right? So we will never see that number again, right? All right, so I'm doing the numbers. So now that 3 family is worth $1 million, right? So say for instance, I sell that home for $1 million. What is that million gonna mean in the next 20 years? 2 million, 3 million? So it really makes no sense to give away real estate. I think I'm like, we need to hold on real estate. They said point blank. So that's what I do. I purchase homes. I hold on to them now. And I help people purchase and buy homes. So I really believe in allowing someone else to pay for your lifestyle. I don't think I should be paying for what I want in life. I think everything should be a business, point blank, even my marriage, right? Because let's be serious, right? A relationship is, I say me and my wife are business partners, right? And we build this corporation, our kids are employees, right? And our employees are going to take over this corporation. So we have to make sure that the foundation is strong, right? And we have to have great communication, and we have to have a business plan. Because just like any business, we could break up, we could separate, and we have to make sure those Netflix is, if we're blockbusters right now, we have to look out for Netflix and make sure we grow with Netflix and that we're not out of the business. So that's how I look at my marriage, and that's how I look at business as well. And I constantly now just keep buying businesses, buying homes. Right?
So one of my favorite stories, so I don't know if you remember, but like 4 years ago, the first time we spoke, you touched on how you were working on a PhD, or you were working on like some third PhD, and they were like, yeah, so now you could be a consultant for somebody else. And you like, I didn't go through all this to work for somebody else. You're like, listen, I'm 2 credits away from having a PhD, but I'm walking away. So I be butchering that story all the time. Can you please tell that story?
Yeah, so I was scheduled to graduate with my PhD in international business. And I first of all, let me say, I think my most important degree was my bachelor's. And because that laid a real foundation for me, especially when you're young and you're trying to like really, because I've been entrepreneuring for a long time, but it really crystallized like, okay, I know what I was trying to say, but I didn't know how to say it in business terms, like really talking about like SWOT analysis or break-even analysis or cost benefit. Like, you know what you mean, but you're talking street and you're talking gibberish to like, you're trying to get a contract or a commercial lease space and they're talking to you, but you're like talking layman. So the bachelor's kind of crystallized that for me. Master's was kind of like, exactly. Terms and communication. The master's kind of was a little advanced, more of the same, right? So I said, man, I'm gonna get the doctorate because now my expectations for a doctorate in business is pretty high, right? Because I'm like, all right, this thesis statement for master's, all that, okay, fine. But now when you're talking about a doctorate, it's high level. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back and get it. Even though I was already in business, employees, like I was full-time entrepreneur, I'm doing my thing. But I said, I'm using my business degrees and business knowledge not for necessarily self-gain. My thing is, and I always talk about this, is impact. Like whatever you're doing, you got to try to maximize the impact that you're having on people, society, your kids. Like it's about impact, right? Because you can have a whole bunch of money and be a glutton for your money and you're not really making an impact. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to make an impact. And I tell people every day I live my life is like I'm working on my Wikipedia page. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make the history books, like textbooks, not the news. Like I need to be etched in there like, oh, this was the guy that turned things around for black people. We were able to kill them and wrongfully accuse them and jail them. But there was a turning point called the American Black Revolution. And this guy was one of the people. And now we can't do that anymore. Because if you mess with those black people, you're going to get hemmed up really badly. It's like a Jewish story, right? They got a Holocaust. They got to New York. They became lawyers and commercial real estate people, and it was you can put your finger on when that happened, and it shifted.
Yeah.
And now they got their own communities, own hospitals, police station, and you can't mess with them too easy.
At all.
You know, Diddy and Biggie had the rap in All About the Benjamins when it says stack chips like Hebrews. You don't hear Hebrew, they black that out almost like the word nigger.
Yeah.
So you're like, why you can't say Hebrew in the rap? They're like, you better not touch it. We own these labels. We own the air. Anyway, I'm drifting.
Yeah.
We're going back to the story, right? So my thing is impact, right? So I'm talking about having impact. So my degree, I was supposed to graduate 2011. And I'm in there and I'm excited because for me, a terminal degree in business should be about impact. I'm trying to find out how to make third world countries, second world countries, or first world countries, or turn around economies, or how do we go in and as a doctors, because I'm thinking like a medical doctor takes something that's sick and make it better, right? And we put our hands on business and economy and make it better.
Correct.
And I'm in the class and these professors talking about you're going to be the consultant to the CEO. And I'm in class and I'm like, ho. If I'm the consultant to the CEO and I'm getting a PhD, what degrees does the CEO have? Because that's the degree I need to sign up for then. Because you're still talking to me about having the ear of the CEO. And I'm like, so what is the real study right now that I'm supposed to get into that's gonna make me the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or Fortune 50 company? And then as I'm really looking at it, they don't have the roadmap for that, because these CEOs and stuff, oftentimes they're like C students, or they came from privileged society, or it came a different way. The college institution is not the one that's birthing the Fortune 50 company. So it just is something more innate, risk taking, creativity, leverage. Just it came from somewhere else that you became this most powerful. Like Jeff Bezos didn't go to Princeton. You know what I'm saying? Most wealthy man in the world. And not only does he has all this wealth, he has impact. He's shifting the way we live and do business.
Yeah.
Like Amazon has shifted the way we consume things and read books. And now you're talking about they got vehicles and he's hiring people like he's FedEx driver, like they're FedEx drivers. That is impact that you can shift culture in society, right? So I'm like, look, if y'all can't give me this game-changing information as a PhD, I can no longer do business with you. I cannot be under your tutelage because you guys really are working for me. Like I'm looking at the professors like, you should really be my employee, right? Like I should not be studying under you. And I'm 3 classes short. And I remember like every semester I would go in and the professor's like, oh hell, Devin's in this class. And I'm like, oh, so that's how y'all be feeling about me? All right, I'm still coming in and we gonna dance. But after a while, it became like, they're really not on that high level that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like that, like a high level. Like if they were saying, okay, you're gonna be the consultant to the president of the United States or a world leader, I may have stayed patient and finished those 3 classes. But you're telling me you're gonna be the consultant to GE or Procter & Gamble.
I mean,
How do I become Procter & Gamble?
I don't know what happened just now, but I think I was meant to be here. This morning, I was watching a video. It said, get passive income, then make sure you make a passive impact. That literally, those words, and you're here talking about passive impact, right? Meaning you do something and you're constantly making an impact. I think school, from elementary to high school, we were taught how to be the best ever, like the best employee. You gotta be the best employee, right? And so hearing your story, I'm like, man, God, this dude's about to spend all this money to be number 2, not even number 1. When you have the brain,
I hope to be number 2.
Then you're looking at the then you're looking at the professor like, yo, I could buy your life.
Yeah.
Like, yo, you know what? Like,
How much are you getting paid right now? Like I got room on my payroll. I got room on my payroll for you.
Exactly, right?
Come be my consultant.
And it's aggravating because one, you know who you are, right? And then you're like, okay, then you break it down. and you look at the professor, I'm like, wait a minute, how are you supposed to teach me something when you have a job? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So how can they
Right.
think on your level when they have to answer to somebody and have a schedule?
Right, and
That's
their mentality is suppressed. You know what I'm saying? Because I taught college as well. They don't call me professor because I'm a rapper, right? It's because it's for real, right? I taught college for 8 years. I taught 7 economics courses and multiple business courses. And my plan, like this was a plan before I even went. And the guy that got me in was a friend of mine. He was a politician. He was a dean of the program. So it was kind of like a little thing to get me in. But my plan was to turn those students into entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because I remember being there, getting my bachelor's, master's, and I'm like, this is not like steering me towards a direction. So I would be in there talking about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And I would get called in to like the dean's office after he left, because he did that plug and he was gone like 3 months later, right? So we had a new dean. And they would constantly tell me, Professor Robinson, you know, you just stick to microeconomics.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking. And I'm like, but the students love it, right? But they're whispers because the students now go to the other professors' classes in microeconomics or whatever, and the other professors are talking, you know, the straight, you know, curriculum, and the students are now getting a little disruptive to them, say, no, we learned in Professor Robinson class that in this labor economics, it doesn't really work like that. You really should do this, and you know, the labor force participation rate is not being calculated properly when you're a business owner. That's a little different because blah, 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 right? So those professors, I started seeing them come into my classroom to sit and like watch what I'm doing. Students love it. Professors hated it because they were conditioned. They were in the matrix. I took the red pill. I don't know which pill is which, but I took the blue pill. I took the pill that like took me into Neo. You know what I'm saying? And they were on the pill that made them Mr. Smiths. So I had a problem.
Some people just have to pave their own road.
Yeah, well that's true, and we need everybody.
And
I believe we need
Come
everybody.
on, youth.
Yeah.
You just have to pave your own road, and maybe that was your destiny, to pave my own road, right? Like, of course the kids love it, right? You showing them the truth, and the truth is, they gonna go to school, they have this big dream, they gonna come out and be rich as hell, right? Then something called debt to income hit, right? They can't buy a house.
Yeah.
They're back at their mama house,
Yeah.
right? And now they're like, okay, I'm miserable, right? And now they get a job, 50,000. But they're like, all right, I have to pay school back, so I'm really not making no money. So it's more miserable, right? More misery, right? And I've never seen a multi-millionaire or a millionaire, point blank, or 100,000-aire, right, have 4 jobs and have money, right? They have 4 jobs for a reason, right? And I think our society is like, because you work hard, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that you're working hard at the right thing, right? We see a lot of custodians working hard, busting their butt. I'm talking about hours after hours. That doesn't mean that person's going to be wealthy, right? So I think at least in how I grew up, working hard was a thing. But my parents never said, no, you need to work smarter or you need to work like this to get ahead. It was always surviving. I don't want to survive. I don't want to eat the end of the bread. The last that last one that nobody wants. I don't want it either. Why do I have to eat that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm
and in the class, I used to tell them, because you know our mainstream financial advisors and stuff. Pay yourself first, and paying yourself first is paying yourself 10% and save that. And I'm like, listen, that's a bad plan. So I teach people how to live off of 10% of your income rather than save 10%. By the time I break down when your productivity slows down in your older age and inflation kicks in, that savings that you thought you were putting together for retirement is gone within 12 years. And that's why our seniors often struggle and now got to rely on Social Security, or if they had a good pension and retirement plan, which they don't get the raises, your retirement check does not go up at the rate of inflation. So inflation still consumes your check. 2 month inflation averages 8 to 12% per year. Raises are not that much. Raises are 1 and 3%. So it's going to consume that very quickly, and your lifestyle is going to drop. This is what's happening to our older people, right? I explain you live to 10% of your income. If you want to live to a $75,000 lifestyle, you need to be generating $750,000 a year. Yeah. You don't get credit cards and get things to make it look like your income is more. No, you have to now focus on how do I generate more and live to less? Because when you do that, like Armageddon would almost have to hit in order for your lifestyle to be disrupted. You're talking about 90% of your income would have to be hit before it taps into your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So I break that stuff down in my books and I talk about that. And one of the lessons I've given in college is I explain to them about the education system, right? So this is a 19th century system that was created by Dale Carnegie, right? And the Carnegie helped the government create a system that educated people in specialties because he had a problem with employees that was coming to work for him and no one was a specialist in anything and people were just kind of all over the place. It wasn't good productivity. So what he did was like, okay, wait a minute. I need people to specialize. Like your job is payroll. Your job is marketing. Your job is sales. Your job is logistics. Your job is all these different things. And then he's like, well, okay, we got to get everybody with a basic level of education. So they got to learn to read, write, have discipline, spell, that kind of stuff. So the public school education system is that. It's like liberal arts, getting you the basic stuff. But when you hit college, now we talk about disciplines. That's your specialty. We need you to go into this specialty because when you come out, you're that person that's going to be doing this.
Your whole life.
So what you don't realize is happening is you don't get the understanding of the broader understanding of business. So you're afraid to do entrepreneurship because you went to school for marketing or you went to school for supply, right? Logistics. So you work your way up from the mailroom and or HR. And we come out of college with such great confidence. We come out like,
we're gonna take off.
Hey, you know, I'm telling you, a fresh degreed person, and they got that motivational speech from Denzel at commencement. They come out excited, but they don't know that they are deep in one small lane, right? Imagine you're on a highway and you cannot change lanes. So if you have 1 million people with HR degrees and your lane gets backed up in traffic, you're unable to switch lanes. So you just have to sit there. Unless you go back to school to retool so that you can switch the lane. But that's what cripples us because we're trained to be employees, right? And no one's really coming out until Professor Devin Robinson's Urban Business Institute, urbanbusinessinstitute.com, came out to teach you all these different things. Because what I tell people is, this is so interesting, right? You can go to college to get a degree in HR. But when people are trying to go to entrepreneurship, they think that they can just go out and do it. We don't think like, so you think people get degrees to work for a company, but when you go out to own a company, you should not have any kind of knowledge? That's why a lot of us fail because we think, we think it's just common sense. But you need to get, whether you read books, go to conferences, whatever, but you gotta get knowledge in all the lanes. So that when you wake up in the morning and you're the office manager because you're answering the phones and you hang up or someone calls about sales, you can switch lanes. You're not stuck in that lane. Degreed people are often stuck in that lane and they can't switch lanes. Traffic is jammed up or they're traveling and then they realize that lane no longer exists, right? They're like, oh, you know, you was a blacksmith. You used to change shoes on horses, but we don't need that anymore now because of Ford's Model T. So your lane has expired. What? So what do I do now? And now you have a problem. You know what I'm saying?
And that's a lot of mental.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing to the college students. And they were like, that's not what we wanted you to explain, but Dale Carnegie. You were supposed to focus on the Carnegie Company and the railroads and the J.P. Morgans and the oil industry as a case study, not as entrepreneurship. So
you're supposed to be an educational slave master.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Tell them to stay in their lane.
Absolutely. But I like crisscrossing the highway. Trust me, you drive with me, you know what I'm talking about.
The entrepreneur is like, even they might get there a little, they might not get there first, but they're like, yo,
we didn't get there last.
Every lane, that's a pothole. I'm telling you, I see it. That lane has a pothole. Don't do that. I've been there already. I failed at that already, but now I know it's a pothole.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But now you're in that lane, you never know the pothole. You never know what's in the other lane.
Absolutely.
You don't even know your failures. And I think, to me, in my life, the biggest appreciation I have is to fail, right? It's just because I know I did something that I never done before and feeling uncomfortable.
You got to get comfortable with discomfort.
Exactly. How many people haven't felt uncomfortable in a long time. Shame on you. Shame on you. Seriously.
See, when you have one lane and something like the pandemic hits,
Yep.
or recession hits, or the president takes us to war unjustly, and things happen like that, and you don't have a other lane to slide into, like I said, traffic jam. You're in trouble. It don't exist anymore.
And then when you get to the end, you should notice that the bridge is cut. So everyone's just falling down.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been waiting for all this time?
All this time.
Right?
I don't believe in
Pension's
that.
gone.
Listen,
It's just-
I don't want my $1 million over my lifetime. You know, people are like, they work 30 years for $35,000 a year. That gives them $1 million over their lifetime. I want my $1 million this month.
And-
I used to say I wanted this year, but now I'm like, oh, this is not that hard as I thought. Now I want it this month. But while I'm doing that, like I said, I'm flying below the radar because I know the climate that I'm in with my own people and certain things that I'm like, I can help you and I'll show you everything I know. But as for me, I'm gonna try to fly below the radar as much as possible because I need to continue building my thing.
Yeah,
but
amen.
people come to me, I don't